we move on, we'll discuss Borussia Dortmund, their slow start that has been so far this season, and we will later on preview the Dortmund St. Pauli game. Borussia Dortmund, they've had a rough start to their season. They're sitting seventh place in Bundesliga for their standards. Seventh place in Bundesliga, has already lost 2 games. They drew another, sitting on 10 points. Already drifted 4 points below the likes of Bayern, Leipzig. It's been a little rough for Borussia Dortmund. The hindsight, though, in the Champions League, they played some pretty good football. They're sitting top. It's only 2 games, but they scored. I believe they defeated Celtic 7. They defeated them 7-1. But in terms of league play, hasn't been that great of a really good start for them. And we know they reached the Champions League final last season. Now being managed by Nuri Sahin, who came in as an assistant halfway through last season. Edin Terzic decided to step away. Now the likes of Nuri Sahin taking over managing the club, and there's some things that Borussia Dortmund have been struggling this season. Their away record has been really, really poor. They've only gotten a point this season away, I believe, up to this point. And sometimes they lack that dynamism, that cutting edge when they most need it. And they have holes that they need to that they definitely need to address. This Borussia Dortmund team, that is always, when you're with a new manager, you're always in a transition. Nuri Sahin trying to develop a style of play that can take Borussia Dortmund as far as they can. Nuri Sahin, he's already said that he's not going to panic despite the poor league start. Saying that it'll be fatal for the club to already doubt themselves this early in the season. In their 3 league games away this season, they lost to Stuttgart 5-1. They were also defeated. They lost to Stuttgart 5-1. They lost someone else 2-1. I forgot who. Oh, Union Berlin 2-1. And then it's just been rough. It's been rough. And then the other draw came also away from home. Home form so far this season, they've been really good. You look at the Champions League, the 7-1 result. They beat this in the Bundesliga. They beat the likes of who did they beat at home? They beat VfL Bochum, and then they beat VfL Bochum, and then I think they beat Heidenheim. Yeah, Heidenheim. Then they drew with Werder Bremen away. They lost to Stuttgart. They lost to Union Berlin. It just shows, and that sometimes can be a mental thing. When you're not up for it, going away, the pressure is getting to you, and you're starting to get tunnel vision. And you can't get tunnel vision because it starts affecting your performances and your play. And that's the thing. Tottenham, I say Tottenham, it's almost natural. Borussia Dortmund, I think they have a little bit of a bottling nature for them. I go back to this all the time. Go back now 2 seasons ago, that end of the year, they should have won that Bundesliga. The way they bottled it in that past, late couple of games, I think some of this is almost club tradition sometimes. And I do think Dortmund, and they're not as bad as Tottenham in terms of, with Chiellini coming out saying it's the history of Tottenham. Don't think it's to that extent for Borussia Dortmund. But Borussia Dortmund is a team that, when the going gets tough, I lack that belief in them. And I lack in the belief that they'll have the consistent... Because at the beginning of the season, people talked about this team potentially battling for... But I didn't believe it. Bundesliga, there was no way. And I think they've already proven that they're not at that level. They're not that elite of a team to compete with Leverkusen, Bayern. But the good thing about this for Borussia Dortmund is They have a good opportunity to bounce back, taking on Saint Pauli. And this game is being played at home, which we know that's Borussia Dortmund safe place, and an atmosphere that they've really been able to take advantage of. So I think this is a good opportunity. I think St. Pauli is sitting 15th in the Bundesliga. In their first, and the thing with Dortmund is within their first 5 games, they were pretty good. It was 4 wins and a draw. It was since then that they've dropped the results, and it's led to where they are right now. As far as St. Pauli, they lost their last game 3-0 to Mainz, and they were dominated in that game. They didn't create any opportunity, and Mainz was much better. They're managed by Alexander Blessin, and they just don't create enough opportunities, St. Pauli, and I don't think they'll create much going away at the the Dortmund Stadium. St. Paul have only scored 4 goals so far this season. They just don't create enough clear cut out opportunities, and I struggle to see how they're going to create. I think Borussia Dortmund is going to be able to suffocate them, play the game on their end, and dominate. Because look, Borussia Dortmund haven't had a good start, but St. Paul has 1 win from their last 5, and 1 win from their last 6. They have 4 losses in that. So obviously, St. Paul is just not that great of a team. Dortmund, they've suffered some injuries. They're without Jan Koto, Julian Duranville, and Giovanni Reina, and then Adeyemi. He's going to be out for a pretty long while, which he's a big player for Borussia Dortmund. His pace, his verticality, his ability. I think he's a really, really good player for them that allows them to stretch back lines with his pace, with his ability to dribble with the ball with pace. Nicolas Sula, he might be, he's probably not going to be available as well. So it's going to be interesting to see who partners Nico Schlotterbeck. It'll probably be Valdemar Anton. And then something that Borussia Dortmund do need to settle is that midfield. They've had an unsettled midfield with, when they played their best game so far this season, they defeated the likes of Celtic. They 7-1. They played Emre Can and Pascal Grob as the double pivot. Another option that they could go with in the double pivot is Marcel Sabitzer, who has that ability to play in that double pivot, has not been as involved as I thought he was initially making the transfer. By the way, Marcel Sabitzer, fun fact, he's played for Dortmund, United, and Leipzig. Dortmund, Munich. He played for United as well. Actually, he played for Dortmund, Munich, and Leipzig. That's just a interesting outfit. But he has not been involved as much this season as I expected. I believe he will probably, he has a chance to play with Pascal Gross. Pascal Gross is a player. I like his potential. I think not his potential. I like his quality. I like what he does in that double pivot. We've seen him play for Brighton. He has that ability. He has flexibility as well, as he's a converted fullback and midfielder, or vice versa. So yeah, Borussia Dortmund obviously they just have far better quality. And then in moments where they do struggle to create, they have a different way that they can play with Guirassy, taking advantage of his physicality, of his height. They can go direct to him. They can take advantage of him on set pieces. I think he's a player that if you're struggling to sustain dominance, you can play the ball long and hope the ball sticks, and he can do what he does, playing across once in a while. We know Gittins, he's had a really good, he's a really good player with some potentials. Jamie Byniggins, the 20-year-old, the Englishman. He had a good game in their last outing before the international break. The way he can dribble in tight spaces with the combination of pace, and I think he's also a pretty good finisher. He has that potential to be a really, really good player. It's just whether or not he can take it. Can he be the next star? Can he break into that England team? I have some questions, but we'll see. Now, Borussia Dortmund, it's important for them to get this result, because afterwards they take on Real Madrid in the Champions League, and we know how poor they've been away so far in the Bundesliga. That game will be played at the Fortress, at the Bernabeu. That's a difficult game for Borussia Dortmund, to say the least, and they want to enter the game with some momentum. They don't want to enter the game on a loss, because it just makes it that much harder.